My girlfriend grew cold, started coming home late. Then I realized she was cheating on me with her best friend. So here's the deal. I'm a 26-year-old guy, and I've been dating this girl, Sadie, for about 5 years now. If I'm being totally honest, our relationship has been pretty great. I've tried to be the best boyfriend I could be, and I feel like she's been good to me too. When I look back at our time together, it's mostly been smooth sailing without much drama. I guess that's rare these days, right? Anyway, let me get to the point. Sadie has this friend from college named Lucy. Now, they weren't roommates or anything like that, and they didn't take any classes together, but they met at some sporting event, either volleyball or basketball, something like that. I can't really remember the details, but what I do know is they hit it off. They became close, and even after college, they've kept in touch. They hang out once or twice a year, which makes me think they're pretty tight. I never really thought much about their friendship. It seemed innocent enough, just two girls who enjoy spending time together. So, when Sadie told me that Lucy was coming into town and wanted to crash at her hotel for a night, I didn't think anything of it. This wasn't the first time they'd done this. To be fair, the first time Sadie mentioned Lucy staying at a hotel instead of with us, I did find it kind of weird. I mean, we have a perfectly good guest room at our place. Why not just stay with us? But Sadie explained that Lucy would feel more comfortable and relaxed at a hotel. Something about having her own space. Whatever made sense, so I didn't push it. When the day came, I wasn't bothered at all. Actually, I was kind of excited. I'd have the place to myself for the night. I could eat junk food, binge-watch whatever I wanted, and just have some chill alone time. It seemed like a pretty good trade-off. The next morning, when Sadie came back home, she seemed really happy, like she'd had a great time. She was smiling, laughing, just in a good mood overall. So I didn't think twice about it. Then, out of nowhere, she asked me, "Are you okay? Is everything all right?" It threw me off. She's asked me that before, but usually when something's obviously wrong, like if I'm stressed out about work or something. But I was feeling fine, actually better than fine. I had a great night to myself, so her question felt strange. It was like she knew something I didn't, like she was checking in on me for a reason. I shrugged it off, but it stuck in my head. I mean, why would she ask me that when everything seemed perfectly normal? A couple of weeks went by, and I didn't think much more about it until one night when I was hanging out with a buddy of mine. We were just talking about random stuff, and he brought up this theory, one of those late-night, half-joking theories, that all straight women are a little bit bisexual. At first, I thought it was hilarious. I mean, it sounded ridiculous, like something he made up just to stir the pot. But he kept going, saying things like women enjoy seeing each other naked, and that they're more comfortable touching each other in a playful way. He talked like he had insider knowledge or something. This guy's a bit of a player, so I didn't know if he was serious or just messing around. But after I left, that conversation stuck with me. I know it sounds dumb, but I couldn't shake it. What if there was something more to what he was saying? I started thinking about Sadie and Lucy's friendship in a way I hadn't before. I mean, they've known each other since college. Isn't that the time when a lot of people explore their sexuality? Would something have happened between them? Could it have? And then the real question hit me. If they did find themselves in some heated situation, would they even stop? Would Sadie stop? Or Lucy? It's not like I'd ever thought about this before. But now, I couldn't get it out of my head. What if, to Sadie, something like that wouldn't even count as cheating? If it happened, would she even tell me? I felt like my brain was spiraling. All of these thoughts, questions, and doubts were just bouncing around in my head, and I couldn't get a grip on them. Honestly, I was getting a little pissed off, mostly at myself for letting something my friends said get to me. But still, I needed answers. I had to know more, even if it was uncomfortable to ask. So, the next day, I casually brought up the topic while talking to Sadie. We were just chatting about random stuff, and I asked her if she ever tried anything wild in college. You know, just experimenting, doing stuff she wouldn't normally do. She gave me this half smile and said she tried weed a couple of times and experimented with some other light drugs. Nothing major, just a phase. She said those habits didn't last long. Her answer was honest, and there was nothing sketchy about it, but it didn't satisfy the nagging feeling in my gut. And that's when I realized I was in too deep. I'd gone from being perfectly secure in my relationship to questioning every little thing, all because of a stupid conversation. I didn't know whether to let it go or dig deeper. The more I thought about it, the more anxious I got. Was there something between Sadie and Lucy that I didn't know about? Or was I just being paranoid? Either way, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, and it was starting to eat away at me. Feeling bold and a bit uneasy, I decided to just come out with it. I steered the conversation toward where my thoughts had been circling for days and straight up asked Sadie if she'd ever experimented with women. Her reaction was, well, let's just say it didn't quite sit right with me. She laughed a lot. More than seemed natural, really? And shook her head repeatedly, almost like she was trying too hard to convince me of something. No, 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 she kept saying, and while on the surface, her answer seemed solid, there was something about how quickly she brushed it off that left me doubting. The whole thing just felt exaggerated, like she was playing a part. It wasn't what I expected. Part of me felt a little better. Sure. She said no, after all. But I couldn't completely silence the nagging feeling inside me that something was off. So, I tried to press her a little more, asking for more details, hoping she'd just laugh it off naturally or give me a straight-up, no-nonsense answer. Instead, things got tense, and I could tell we were teetering on the edge of a full-blown argument. I knew when to pull back, so I let it go. But man, that didn't make me feel any better. Now I'm stuck. I regret even bringing it up because all it's done is stir up this doubt that's gnawing away at me. I can't shake this feeling that something might have happened between her and Lucy, whether it was way back in college or more recently. The more I think about it, the more it feels like there could be something there, something I wasn't told from the start. And that's what really messes with my head. I mean, wouldn't you want to know if your girlfriend had a past with someone she's still hanging out with? Especially if they were intimate at some point? That's a different kind of bond, one that could easily be reignited. To be honest, I'm starting to believe there's more between them, but I can't figure out if it was just a one-time thing, or if it's something ongoing. I don't even know how to approach this anymore. Part of me wants to ask her again to really dig into it, but I know that'll just lead to more tension, maybe even a fight. So here I am, stuck in my own head, trying to figure out if I should just trust her or if I need to find a way to confirm my suspicions. I've thought about checking her phone. Yeah, I know that's crossing a line, but I'm scared. Not just of what I might find, but of the fallout if she caught me snooping. That would blow up everything we've built, no doubt about it. But if I don't do it, how am I supposed to know the truth? It feels like the only way to get real answers, but it's a dangerous move and I know it. Edit 1. After reading through some of the comments, I noticed a lot of people are suggesting that women, in general, are more open to experimenting than we guys might think. It's making me reconsider my friend's theory, the one about most straight women being at least a little bisexual. Maybe he's not so far off? But then again, I can't really picture Sadie in that light. She's never hinted at anything like that before, not even subtly. It's like I'm trying to convince myself there's nothing to worry about, but it's hard to be sure anymore. Edit 2. One thing's becoming pretty clear to me. Even if I ask her again, I don't think Sadie's going to give me the truth. At this point, she'd probably just shut the conversation down completely. The only way I might find out what's really going on is by digging deeper. Whether that's looking through her phone or checking out her laptop. I don't know. But even then, what if I don't find anything? Does that mean she's innocent? Or does it just mean she's good at covering her tracks? I'm not sure how I'll deal with whatever I uncover, but I'm getting myself ready for whatever comes next. Edit 3. I want to clear something up because it seems like a few people think I'm demonizing lesbian relationships here, and that's not the case at all. I don't have a problem with Sadie experimenting in the past. If she did, cool, that's her business. What I'm struggling with is the possibility that she's cheating on me, whether it's with Lucy or someone else, and keeping that part of herself hidden from me. Sure, some guys might find the idea of their girlfriend with another woman to be some kind of fantasy, but when you're in a committed relationship, it's still cheating no matter who it's with. That's what's messing with my head. Look, it's only natural to have questions in situations like this. I mean, Sadie spending the night with Lucy, someone she's known for years, while I'm at home watching Netflix. Yeah, that's gonna stir up some thoughts. Maybe Lucy is just the friend Sadie confides in, complains to when I leave the toilet seat up again, or when I forget to take out the trash. Or maybe they're planning some secret plot to take over the world through their volleyball league. Who knows? But, on the flip side, what if there's more? What if this whole time there's been something I've been blind to? And about my buddy's theory that all straight women are secretly a little bisexual, let's be real. That's about as reliable as the whole thing where guys supposedly dream about the Roman Empire all the time. Ridiculous. But still, here I am, wondering if there's something I don't know. If I'm being real with myself, the only way to get real answers might be to just ask her, no games, no sidestepping. But then again, curiosity killed the cat, and I'm starting to feel like this might put a serious dent in our relationship. Update 2. So, here's the update I know a lot of you have been waiting for. Since that night I asked Sadie about experimenting, Lucy hasn't come back into town. Things between Sadie and me have been smooth, just like they've always been. But those doubts still creep in from time to time, and I hate it. Every now and then, I catch myself wondering if I'll ever get the full picture. And yeah, I made a mental note to check her phone or laptop if I ever get the chance. I know it's not right, but this might be the only way I get some closure. I don't know what I'll find, if anything, but I'm bracing myself for whatever comes out of this. That opportunity I'd been waiting for finally came about a week after my first post. Sadie had a spa appointment, and she was running late, rushing out the door. I saw my chance. We both have the same phone model, so I decided to place mine right next to her handbag on the table, hoping she'd grab it by mistake. The only real difference between our phones is the cases. Hers is navy blue, and mine's black. But in her hurry, she didn't even notice. She snatched up my phone and bolted out the door. Not long after she left, I heard my phone ringing. Well, technically her phone, but it was my number calling. Sadie had realized her mistake and was apologetic, saying she'd accidentally taken my phone with her. She even offered to turn around and bring it back if I needed it, but I played it cool and told her not to worry. I didn't have anything to hide, just group chats with the guys, the usual stuff, so it wasn't a big deal. If anything, this was the perfect trade-off. Sadie is an incredibly light sleeper, and I knew I'd never be able to check her phone while she was sleeping. With her gone for a while and no way of rushing back, it was the perfect moment to finally get some answers. I grabbed her phone and immediately felt a knot in my stomach. Part of me wanted to back out, but the other part, well, it couldn't let this go. I needed to know if my gut had been right all along. I started with her gallery app. I scrolled back to the day she went to the hotel with Lucy, looking for anything that might confirm my suspicions. At first, all I found were innocent videos of them at a bar, laughing, drinking, acting goofy. Then there were clips of them messing around in the hotel room, nothing out of the ordinary. I even checked the trash folder, but either she hadn't deleted anything recently or she'd been thorough. There was nothing there. That's when I moved to her messages. My heart was pounding as I opened up her chat with Lucy. First, it seemed normal. There was nothing suspicious in the most recent messages, just regular conversation, casual exchanges. But I knew the real test was further back, around the time of that hotel stay. I scrolled up, my anxiety growing with every line I read, until I finally stumbled on something I wish I hadn't found. The conversation was short, but it was enough to make my blood run cold. Started with Lucy. Lucy, Sadie, I think we should talk about what happened. Sadie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Let's leave the jokes for now. Lucy, sorry, but it was certainly exciting. Sadie, yeah, it was very exciting. I'm sorry if I crossed a line, but when you didn't push me away, I couldn't stop. Lucy, I've never been with a girl before, you know that. I wanted to stop you, but it felt so good from the very start. I'm glad I didn't. Sadie, glad you didn't too. Lucy, but I don't know if this can be a thing between us. You have a serious boyfriend. Sadie, he doesn't need to know. Couldn't breathe. My hands shook as I read those words over and over, hoping that somehow I'd misread them, that this wasn't real. But it was. Every line, every sentence, felt like a punch to the gut. Lucy, I don't know if this can be a thing we do. Sadie, maybe we'll see how things are the next time we see each other. Lucy, okay, that sounds good. I almost threw her phone against the wall in a fit of rage. The reality of it all was sinking in, and I felt my world crumbling around me. Sadie had crossed a line I didn't even know existed until now. And the worst part? She had no intention of telling me. She planned on keeping me in the dark. I scrolled through the rest of their messages, desperately hoping I'd find something to explain it all away, some kind of redeeming detail that would ease my mind. But there was nothing. After that conversation, they just went back to chatting like everything was normal. I could hardly process it. I was fuming. The betrayal was suffocating, and I had no idea what to do next. Since I didn't have my phone, Sadie had it with her. I had to act fast. I grabbed an old tablet that I hadn't used in months and took pictures of the incriminating messages. The tablet's camera wasn't great, but it was good enough to capture the evidence. The pictures were grainy but readable, and every time I looked at them, my rage boiled over. This wasn't just a fling. It wasn't some innocent misunderstanding. This was premeditated. Sadie knew what she was doing. She'd crossed a line with Lucy, and worst of all, she'd made it clear she didn't plan on telling me. I felt sick. The woman I thought I knew, the one I'd spent 5 years with, had hidden this from me, and now I was left alone to decide what to do with it all. The rest of that day was a blur of pacing around the house, my mind spiraling as I tried to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do. Every few minutes, I thought about smashing my fist into the drywall, just to release some of the pressure building up inside me. But what would that solve? Nothing. I was stuck in this mental loop, playing out 1,000 different confrontations in my head, none of them ending well. I even considered calling that guy I'd met at the bar a while back. We weren't exactly close, but in that moment, I felt desperate. Still, I knew he wasn't the guy for sensible advice. He'd probably just suggest getting drunk and forgetting the whole thing. So instead, I sat there, stewing, waiting for Sadie to get back from her spa day. By the time she finally walked through the door, I hadn't come up with any kind of plan. I felt unprepared, raw, and I knew if I wasn't careful, I'd blow up in a way that would make everything worse. I couldn't afford that. Sadie is the kind of person who crumbles under pressure. When she's confronted, she either shuts down completely or starts crying, and if that happened, it would push me over the edge. I'd lose control and things would spiral out of hand. When she came in, all casual and relaxed, telling me about her spa session like everything was normal, I bit my tongue. I couldn't let her know what I'd found, at least not yet, so I tried to keep things light. Hope none of those masseuses touched you, I joked, forcing a smile. She laughed and said all the staff were women. I couldn't help myself. The words just slipped out. That doesn't matter for a lot of people. My heart was pounding as I watched for any flicker of recognition in her face, but she just chuckled and moved on, completely oblivious to what I knew. It's been a week since that moment, and I'm stuck in this miserable limbo, unsure of what to do next. Every day, the thought gnaws at me. Sadie cheated on me. Not with a guy, but with a woman. I don't know why, but it feels different, heavier somehow. Maybe it's because I never saw it coming. Or maybe it's because she didn't even think I needed to know. He doesn't need to know, she'd said. Those words are like a knife twisting in my gut every time I think about them. I've always tried to be the best partner I could be. I gave Sadie my time, my energy, my love. And this is what I get in return. It's like a fire has been lit inside me, and all I can feel is this irrational, simmering rage. I know I need to confront her, but how? I can't just explode. I need something more calculated. I need a plan, something that'll give me closure, something satisfying, or else I'm going to end up doing something incredibly stupid. There it was, though, plain as day. That message, like a rotten apple hidden in an otherwise normal conversation. He doesn't need to know. Well, Sadie, hate to break it to you, but secrets don't stay buried forever. They have a nasty habit of crawling out from under the rug, and now I know the truth. I felt like a caged animal, pacing back and forth, trying to figure out my next move. Punching a hole in the wall might give me a momentary release, but it wouldn't solve anything. No, I needed something more. Something that would hit harder without me losing my temper. Revenge, after all, is best served cold. Update 3. So here's what happened. This is probably going to be my last update, and honestly, I'm glad because I finally got the closure I needed. But a part of me wonders if I went too far. Let me give you some context I might not have shared before. Sadie and I had been living together for a while, but the apartment was originally hers. I moved in with her after about 2 years of dating, and while we split the rent, it wasn't officially my place. That small detail played a huge role in what I did next. After a few days of stewing in my own anger, I finally confided in one of my closest friends about everything that had happened. I laid it all out for him. The messages, the betrayal, the uncertainty about what to do next. He listened, then gave me 2 simple words of advice. Leave her, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized he was right. There was no salvaging this. No amount of apologies or explanations could take back what she did. He even offered to let me crash at his place while I figured things out. That offer was exactly what I needed to move forward. Once I'd made up my mind to leave her, the wheels in my head started turning. I wasn't just going to pack up and go without a trace. No, I wanted her to feel the same shock and betrayal that I'd been living with for days. So I waited. I acted normal, like nothing had changed. All the while I was planning my exit. One day, while Sadie was at work, I packed up all my things. I didn't leave anything behind, no notes, no explanations. I made sure to take anything that was mine, and I left the key to the apartment on the kitchen counter, right where she'd see it. Then, just before I walked out the door for the last time, I sent her the pictures I'd taken of those messages between her and Lucy. I didn't say a word, just sent the photos and left. I can only imagine the look on her face when she saw them. I didn't stick around to see her reaction. I didn't need to. She'd know exactly why I was gone. And that's it. That was my revenge. Simple, clean, and devastating. A part of me feels like I crossed a line, that maybe I could have handled it better. But honestly, it felt incredibly satisfying to finally be the one in control, to be the one leaving her behind, without giving her the chance to explain or cry her way out of it. I don't know what the future holds for Sadie and Lucy, and frankly, I don't care. What I do know is that I'm free now, and I'm moving on. I wanted my exit to be more than just a simple goodbye. I needed it to sting, to be something she wouldn't forget, the way she hadn't forgotten her betrayal with Lucy. Conveniently, Sadie had mentioned she was planning to visit her mom and sisters for a few days, a trip she'd been meaning to take since she had some time off work. Of course, I acted like the supportive boyfriend, encouraging her to go and spend time with family, all the while knowing this was the perfect opportunity for me to execute my plan. Once she left, the house was all mine for a few days. I didn't waste any time. I started packing up all my things. After 3 years of living together, I'd accumulated way more than I realized, and the process took longer than I expected. It wasn't until midnight that I finally managed to get everything boxed up. Every photo, every piece of furniture, every little item that tied me to that place. I took it all. I texted a buddy of mine who had a pickup truck and let him know I'd need his help moving the next day. We made several trips, loading up everything I owned, and by the end of the day, the apartment was almost as empty as the day I first moved in. I left the keys with a trusted neighbor, someone Sadie didn't know well, just to keep her off my trail. Then, I slipped away without a word. The next few days, I kept texting and chatting with Sadie like everything was fine. I played my part, pretending nothing was amiss, all the while knowing the storm that was about to hit. I was playing it cool, waiting for the moment she returned home and realized what had happened. Then, just as she was getting ready to come back, I went completely silent. I didn't respond to her calls, ignored her messages, and disappeared from her radar. When she finally got home, I imagined the shock hit her like a truck. I started getting frantic texts almost immediately, and the phone calls came soon after. My phone buzzed nonstop as Sadie called me over and over again, her panic obvious in every missed message. But I refused to respond. Instead, I left my phone behind and went out with my buddy, needing to escape the chaos that was building on the other end of the line. I felt a twinge of guilt in the back of my mind. Ghosting someone like that? It wasn't the most mature thing to do. But in this case, it was exactly what I wanted. I knew this approach would mess with Sadie's head more than any confrontation ever could. I wanted her to sit in that silence, to feel the weight of uncertainty, to wonder what had happened and why. If I had just yelled or argued, she might have found a way to rationalize her actions. But this would haunt her. I wanted her to remember this feeling, especially if she ever cheated again. whether it was with another woman or a man. A few days later, I got a call from my friend George. He told me Sadie had shown up at his house, desperate, looking for me. George, thankfully, had no idea what had gone down, so he genuinely told her he didn't know where I was. That worked out perfectly for me. I gave him a quick rundown of the situation, and he was fully on board with my plan. When Sadie came back to his place 2 days later, begging for answers, he stuck to the story, keeping my whereabouts a mystery. Meanwhile, the calls and messages didn't stop. Sadie's family even got involved. Her parents and sister started texting me, asking if I was okay and where I had disappeared to. The whole thing was spiraling out of control. By the time I finally decided it was time to confront her, I'd missed over 200 calls. 2 weeks had gone by, and I was still dodging her attempts to reach me. It was clear she was unraveling, and honestly, it was about time for me to face her. So, I drove back to her apartment and knocked on the door. I could see her shadow through the peephole, hesitating before she opened the door. The moment she saw me, her face lit up, and she practically flung herself at me, trying to wrap me in a hug. But I pushed her away, keeping my distance. I wasn't here for a reunion. We stepped inside, and I couldn't help but take in the sight of the place. It looked like a disaster zone. Without all my stuff, the apartment felt stark and cold, like a hollow shell of the home we'd shared. There were empty bottles scattered on the kitchen counter, and Sadie looked rough, like she hadn't slept properly in days. Her eyes were bloodshot, and I could tell she'd been drinking heavily, probably trying to drown out the anxiety. The first thing she blurted out, through tears already welling in her eyes, was, "What did I do?" The absurdity of that question made me laugh. I mean, really? She'd had 2 weeks to think about every mistake, every lie, every moment of betrayal, and now she was asking me what she'd done? If she had been faithful, there'd be nothing for her to worry about. But I knew she wasn't. I looked her straight in the eye and said, "You know exactly what you did with Lucy." The words came out colder than I expected, but they hit the mark. As soon as I said it, I watched the color drain from her face. It was like a switch flipped inside her, and she finally pieced everything together. She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably, and I stood there, watching as she fell apart. There was nothing left for her to say, no excuses, no defenses. She knew she was caught, and I knew I had all the answers I needed. I didn't need her confession. I had her silence, her tears, and her guilt, and that was all I needed to walk away for good. "I can't live without you. I'm dying. You're hurting me so much," Sadie sobbed, her voice cracking between breaths, punctuated by sniffling and wailing. It was a pitiful sight, but I was already beyond the point of feeling sympathy. She was curled up on the floor, a mess of tears, begging for something she knew was long gone. As much as I had 1,000 biting things I wanted to say, as much as I wanted to scream back that she deserved this, I didn't. I simply turned around and walked out the door. Her cries followed me, her voice pleading, desperate, but I didn't turn back. She knew exactly what she was doing when she crossed that line, and now she had to deal with the fallout. I drove straight back to my friend's place, the weight of everything hitting me hard. But I wasn't done yet. I grabbed the pictures I had taken of her messages with Lucy, the ones that shattered everything, and sent them straight to her parents and sister. If they were going to involve themselves in our business, they deserved to know the full story. None of them replied, but I knew they'd read the messages. It was a move that felt cold, but after everything, I figured they needed to see the truth for themselves. For good measure, I also sent the screenshots to Lucy via Facebook. It wasn't about getting an explanation. I just wanted her to feel the weight of the damage she'd helped cause. Her reply came almost instantly, a short apology, nothing more. As much as I wanted to make her feel the same regret and guilt, there was only so much I could do. At the very least, she knew she was part of the reason a 5-year relationship had crumbled. It's been a week since I last went to Sadie's apartment. Every day since, she's been blowing up my phone with texts, talking about how my silence is driving her insane, how much pain I'm causing her, how she just needs closure. But here's the thing, I don't owe her closure. She made her choices when she crossed that line, and now she's feeling the burn of her actions. My mental state had been wrecked when I discovered what she'd done. Now, I'm not going to coddle her just because she's dealing with the fallout. She made her bed, and now she has to lie in it. I won't lie, it does feel a little villainous, targeting her anxiety like this. But then again, should I feel bad? She didn't consider my feelings when she cheated, when she decided to betray me with Lucy and then tried to keep it hidden. I'm just following the path she set me on, embracing the decision to cut ties and move forward with my life. As far as I'm concerned, that's it between us. I don't think I'll ever respond to another message or call from her again. Let her live with the consequences of her actions. She'll just have to deal with that. Meanwhile, I'm focusing on getting my life together, finding peace again, and maybe, eventually, someone I can actually trust. Time will tell. But here's the real kicker. Sending those screenshots to her family and Lucy, that wasn't just a simple move. It was a gut punch, a full-blown knockout. I can only imagine the shock on her family's faces as they read through those messages, utterly blindsided by what Sadie had done. And Lucy, she'll be replaying that night in her head for a long time, her conscience now a heavy burden to carry. Let's be clear, you're not the villain in this story. Sadie played with fire, and now she's getting burned, feeling every painful ember of regret. Those frantic texts, the calls begging for answers, that's the sound of someone unraveling, realizing too late just how badly they messed up. She's trapped in her own mess, drowning in the guilt of her betrayal. So yeah, let that drive you as you rebuild. Focus on finding someone who won't leave you questioning every move, who won't make you feel paranoid about their next late-night hangout or secretive spa day. And as for Sadie, she's learning the hard way that cheating has real consequences, and they're far from pretty. To everyone reading, what would you have done in my shoes? Don't hold back. Let's hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for sticking with me through this wild ride. If you liked this story, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and don't forget to smash that notification bell so you don't miss the next one. Until next time, remember, stay strong, stay true, and don't ever settle for less than you deserve.